Good afternoon, it's Mark Larson, and I'm here to give you the afternoon COVID update. So the first thing is we have no new cases today, so it's 3 o'clock, and we have not received a call from the hospital about new cases, so that's great. A lot of people being tested, and all of the patients that are positive are doing well and or have recovered. So no one's ended up in the hospital, and that's a good thing. So let's go to questions.
Twin City Foods had an outbreak of COVID-19, delaying our county variants, and today they get to reopen. Meanwhile, my small business can't reopen because the outbreak delayed our variants again. How is this okay? What is being done by you and our county officials to get small business open? Letters seem to not work.
Yeah, so Twin City Foods, like all food processing plants, companies, grocery stores, are all considered essential. So they've been open from the beginning. And as you probably have realized, President Trump actually mandated that meat processing plants return to work. So we all realize that, food processing has become very centralized, and so therefore those businesses that are doing that food processing need to be open. Twin City Foods has been very good with working with us. We mandated masking on their return. No one who is sick was allowed to return to work, and only people who've been cleared due to time management. We are still pushing ahead on our variance request, and on Tuesday we will have presented a follow-up report to the state in regards to our variance request, and that will be looked at and decided on this coming Tuesday after Memorial Day.
Why do we have workers from Yakima County, where the growth curve is very high, coming into Kittitas County to work? This seems to invite increased cases here.
Yeah, so we can't control people's movement between counties. We have people who live here but work in Yakima County. We have people in Yakima County that work here, and what we can do is control people who are sick coming to work, but we can't really control the movement between counties for workers. We can control whether or not we go to Yakima to shop, which has always been my please don't go to Yakima to shop.
Are you considering mandatory masking at some point?
Yes. So, yes, masking is important. We know that it works. We know that masking protects others. That's been a consideration for a long time.
Can a smaller restaurant decide to choose to stay in phase 1 when the county goes into phase 2?
Yeah, so let's say we go into phase 2 next week. A restaurant may say, it's still not financially viable for me to open up with having the staff I need, with the restrictions under phase 2. Or they might say, our staff and our clients don't feel safe coming back yet. So that is certainly in their ability to make that decision. They will have the opportunity to open, but they don't have to open.
I have a coworker whose husband tested positive for COVID-19. My coworker is in quarantine, but she is yet to get tested and not presenting any symptoms. We were really good about wearing masks and disinfecting our workstation. What are my chances of contracting COVID-19?
So it's low, so you'd be a secondary contact. If your coworker would become symptomatic, then that coworker would be tested, and if that coworker tested positive, then you would become a contact and you would be quarantined. But right now, your chance of becoming positive would be very, very low, especially if you were good at masking and washing your hands and cleaning your workstation.
Why are people who tested positive in the Twin City food outbreak coming back to work without being tested again? A lot of them are lying about the symptoms so they can go back to work.
Yeah, I don't know if they're lying about the symptoms. I don't know, but I do know that there's a couple ways to test people to return to work. One is a time-based method, which is what we're using here. You go for a certain period of time, it's 7 days plus 72 hours after symptoms have resolved, whichever is longer, and the chance of you being able to transmit that is really low. In the test-based method, the reason we don't test everybody before they go back, because a lot of people still have COVID-19 that shows up on their nose, but we don't really know whether those people are transmitting that disease. So we're using a time-based method, not a test-based method, because people can be positive for months and months.
Many of us have loved ones in skilled nursing homes, assisted living centers, and memory care, both here and in Yakima. I know it's early to even think of those homes reopening. Do you see a time in the near future when we can visit, and how do you think that will look? Not all of our family members can look through a window or speak on the phone, and FaceTime can also be difficult.
Yeah, so I just had a discussion with the health officers in Grant County, Okanagan, as well as Chelan Douglas, and we discussed this yesterday. We know it's important for those folks' mental health to be reopening back up. There are some discussions on the state level in regards to how to do that properly. I mean, still think we're months away, but they're all looking at ways to do that. There was some discussion of actually opening windows. There's some discussion about allowing people to congregate in small groups, but we're still a little bit early in regards to that, but there's a discussion moving forward.
Is it safe to play tennis, either singles or doubles, with people outside of my household? We would definitely stay 6 feet away from each other. Is there a risk of transmission on a tennis ball?
Yeah, safe and allowed, those are two separate things. I get that asked all the time. Is it safe for me to cross-country ski with a group at White Pass if we all drive separately in our cars? And the answer would be, yeah, it's probably safe, but it's not allowed. We aren't allowed to congregate with other people outside of our family. So the same thing would be with tennis. As far as we know, it's not transmitted on a tennis ball, but I have known people that within a family that have been wearing gloves to play tennis. But if you're playing tennis with somebody outside your family, that is not allowed, but it would be safe.
A downtown retail business is advertising a personal shopping experience where you shop in person. This had been promoted by the Ellensburg Downtown Association on social media. Is this legal? Can we now all open up to one customer at a time? My understanding is that retail is only allowed online for delivery and curbside pickup, so I and others downtown have not offered this in-person service at great detriment to our businesses. When did this change?
Yeah, it hasn't really changed. We did reach out to the governor's office and also with the chamber. In business, shopping is not allowed. And again, we're still in phase 1.
With every new case from Twin City Foods, will our county have to wait 14 days to get our variance?
So that gets back to, has the bar been changed? Has the goalpost been changed? The answer is no. Our variance is being evaluated with the criteria that was present at the time it was done, so that so they're really looking at how we've done with management of the COVID outbreak. So how many patients got sick, how many contacts got sick, how many people were contacted, how they did in isolation and quarantine, and I think we at least up to now, I think we've gotten an A on that. So I'm hopeful that on Tuesday that we'll get the variance. We're also being looked at under a microscope about how our county has responded to this as a whole, how much people have stayed home, how many businesses have perhaps opened when they shouldn't have. And so my ask to you as a business owner and as a community is just to stay home, stay healthy, stay home this weekend. Let's get through the Memorial Day weekend. Let's get our variance on Tuesday and be able to move into phase 2.
Previous updates have mentioned a lack of enforcement for the health order in response to questions about violations. Why is there a lack of enforcement? Is there no ordinance to enforce, or lack of personnel, or lack of cooperation by local law enforcement?
So enforcement's difficult. So law enforcement is on board. They are working here at the Emergency Operations Center. We've been working with Clay Myers and with other branches of law enforcement. So our first step is education. Our second step is education. Our third step is having law enforcement involved, and our fourth step would be looking at somebody's business license. So let's say, for example, a food business or a liquor store or some licensed facility. So Some of those things are done by the state, but most of these are asks and not things that we're actually going to be enforcing. Some of it has to do with, if we were trying to enforce no camping, which people shouldn't be camping this weekend, it would take so much law enforcement to do that. It's really an impossible task. So our ask is for people not to camp this weekend.
And our last question is, what are your thoughts about the opening of the farmers market this Saturday?
The farmers market is a food business, so they are allowed to open, just like a grocery store is allowed to open. They put safety plans in place, and my ask for you is to, if you're a business owner, to put your safety plans in place so we can get you open next week. Thanks a lot. Have a good weekend. Bye.